Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Today we're doing a special show in which we will discuss, in general, what's happening with the global food supply and where the situation is going today regarding the global food supply, either be it in Europe, UK, Punjab, Asia, Africa, and America. And we'll have a guest today joining us on the live stream as well from America, and she will share her perspective and her situation regarding the farming and what is happening to the food supply in America today. Just to keep the current situation, especially if in regards to what's happening in Congo and what is happening today in situation in especially today's reports which are coming out of Bihar, where we have seen piles and piles of people starving to death. We have seen how there has been a systematic a decimation of the local food supply in the northern India, where we shared videos of the Indian government deliberately destroying the crop, majority of the crop, which the main harvest of this year. The last year's harvest wasn't fully in, but even this year's harvest was deliberately let to rot in by the Indian government for the purpose of people to starve deliberately to death. And we are seeing those policies having the effect today. And we have seen videos coming out in multiple national, international medias where we have seen piles and piles of dead bodies which have surrounded the Ganges, especially the poorest part in UP and Bihar, where because the food supply was scarce anyway. After destruction of the harvest, there was a lockdown imposed, and it's been since nearly 2 to 3 weeks, where the situation is so bad that all the food markets in that poorest part of that country have been shut down, and the reality of the situation is that people have beginning to starve to death, as we've been making people aware that this is going to happen. The policies of disrupting and destroying the food supply is going to result in mass starvation. Last year's figures in India were very, very huge. And we're seeing a similar pattern of a similar system, which is set up not only in India, but we've seen the exact same replication of the system in Congo. Congo is a very fertile country. It has a masses of farmland, and it was a self-sufficient country for a very long time. But then we saw this model being imposed on the farmers in Congo, and today's situation, which is in Congo, is very dire. People are struggling, people are starving, and to a degree that the majority of the population in that country is relying on global food aid just to survive. And that situation, it seems to be not getting better, but it is getting worse. But closer to home, which we have to realize that this is not a phenomenon or a political idea which is only limited to either Asia or Africa. This is an idea which has its impacts on Europe, on UK, and we'll have a guest from USA today, America, and she will explain the current situation, what is happening in America, and the policy changes which are taking place today, which will have exact pattern of behavior by the government, which will fundamentally put stress on farmers to a degree, and the agenda behind the entire political idea is to take over the farmland. And she will explain the situation there. Is she there now? Yeah, hello.
Hey,
Yeah, how are you
can you
doing?
hear me? Good, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm a human rights activist, and we've been very active in the making people aware about the situation of food supply and how it's been damaged throughout the world. And in last couple of weeks, your video surfaced on the internet, and it became very viral throughout UK. Many of the sites, UK sites, especially in Europe and UK, because the illusion that somehow that the damage of the food supply was limited to far off countries like Africa or Asia, and you have brought the reality of what the political policy is having an effect on the food supply of America. So, if you can explain the situation much better for the audience yourself today.
Yeah, what you're going through, is a little bit different than the USA, and maybe we're not there yet. But unfortunately, human rights for you guys have been taken from you and your farmers. And I'm so sorry for that because I know, especially your country, there's a lot of farmers there that rely on feeding their families, and that's their jobs and their passion. And so here in the U.S., they're doing it slowly and they're doing it strategically, right? So we have a government that was voted in. It doesn't matter how they got voted in, but now they're here. Originally, so people know, I'm originally from California. The Central Valley is the largest agriculture county in the United States. And over the past 15 years, there has been so much change to where farms can't survive, whether it's higher taxes, whether it's rural communities becoming cities, whether it's just regulations and bills coming into California and killing agriculture there. It was a big choice. Now we're in Tennessee. And so, as I have grown, I'm only 27 years old, but I've had a very, um, you know, and uh, there is a lot happening. So let's start with California again. Prop 12 was passed. It was a square footage
Okay.
requirement, and they didn't stop there. It's going to the Supreme Court. So any business in agriculture within the bill has to do the square footage requirement in other states. So we start off with California trying to dictate everybody else doing business in agriculture. The second one is Colorado. Pause Initiative 16. This states that activists, if you know anything about a little bit about the governor of Colorado, his husband is a activist, part of an activist group for animal rights. They proposed this
Okay.
bill as a natural lifespan bill of how long animals should be living.
Okay.
Um, so the example I always give is cattle. They want cattle to live 20 years. Well, we as farmers have to 5% of that. And if
Yeah.
you're in the cattle industry,
Yeah.
you realize they harvest anywhere between 2 and 4 years. So higher cost, bankrupt the family farms, bring in the corporate farms, and give all the
Mm.
money to all these government invested farms. So that one will be
Yep.
on the ballot of 2022. I'm actually going down there at the end of June to advocate for those farmers.
Yep.
Um, the third one that is being hit is Oregon no slaughter. I mean,
Okay.
it's just crazy because Oregon not only has plenty of beef and dairy cows over there, but if you implement a no slaughter bill and they're saying artificial insemination will be considered sexual assault. So you won't even be able to
Okay.
have any animal agriculture in Oregon. And then the biggest one, Biden administration bill. So that's the president, he and his team want to change the world and they think we have a climate change crisis. The only thing is
Okay.
we don't have a climate change crisis. We have an economy crisis. We have a food supply crisis. Now we have shortage of oil because the pipeline has been hacked, or in my words, it's our government killing us from the inside out. So for farmers,
Yep.
this is a big deal. It's not something
Mm.
that is a
If there's
coincidence.
no if there's no fuel, you can't run the tractors, and you can't because I think the pattern seems to be exactly the same which they have used, because my experience in farming in Punjab, I was born on a farm in Punjab. I've seen the same pattern, and my family farm in Punjab suffered a similar, exact same pattern. But you are, I think, 5 or 10 years behind us, and I think, but we faced. And I see the same situation even in UK, where the climate crisis or the notion of climate crisis is being used deliberately. What people don't realize, if you bring in the policies which they want to bring in under the so-called climate crisis, what you will have, you will lose your food independency completely, and you will rely completely on the government to feed you and your family. And this is a government which, throughout the world, has locked us down without any serious consideration. And we are seeing if you just read the news today, was coming out of India. So they systematically destroyed the harvest in the north of India. Now we have a situation where people are literally in hundreds are starving today. The bodies are literally piling up, not because there wasn't enough farming or not because there wasn't enough food. It was the government policies which destroyed the food from the farmers to getting to the poor people. And I think what people are under illusion that somehow these super markets or these mega stores somehow grow the foods themselves. They don't grow the food themselves. The food is grown by independent food suppliers and brought to these markets, and they want to completely decimate the food supply. And this is a message we have to get through. And this climate crisis, through crazy politicians like Biden, Harris, and clowns we got in the UK, especially Boris, or we have Modi in India. We have these people who have fundamentally lost a sense of any common sense and are following down a path which will lead to, well, genocide.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Hello?
can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Unfortunately, they have put us in fear for so long. People are starting, to believe it. And people like us are the ones that are standing up, using our voice and our advocacy to let people know about these policies and what the government is doing behind closed doors. It's time for them to stand up for their actions and bring, the hardworking class of, India, the UK, everywhere. Canada is going through it. United States, it's time for us to stand up as people and take our countries back.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think people do need to understand. I think there needs to be a clarity about this climate change hysteria. What people are pushing in the name of climate change is complete takeover of the food supply. And these people are not sane. And if they get complete control of the food supply, be in no doubt that their policy remains is to starve you to death.
Yeah, I mean, they're already talking about, Bill Gates is already talking about us as Americans should only be able to eat meat once a week and that we should be eating synthetic meat. And what they have on their agenda, it's a stand up straight, get in line, and whatever the government gives you is what you're going to.
Mm,
It's crazy to me because the 30-30 bill is the one they're using for the climate change. Well, they're going to Nebraska first, which 97% of the land
mm,
is owned by farmers and ranchers. And you can't honestly believe, even if,
mm,
you believe in the administration, that Nebraska is an issue for climate change when you have cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago polluting the air every day. More people, build rural communities. They
mm.
kill the environment. So don't blame farmers for, this situation of climate change. You should be helping restore rural communities.
I think people need to understand the situation with independent farmers. They are the only source of independent source of food which is free of government interference and of globalist
Yep.
interference. Once that chain is broken, look, we have to understand these people want you to literally beg government for your food, and they want you to be completely dependent and reliant on the government to a degree that your daily when they talk about synthetic meat, or they talk about milk harvested from using enzymes. Look, technology is improving. There is no doubt, but the problem remains the way they want to do it, and the people involved in doing this. They are not sane people, and they do not have good intentions. And every time we have given control over any, either political control or any financial control, we have only seen corruption and chaos. And if we let the global food supply completely fall into the hands of these people, I think the situation which we are seeing in Congo, the situation we are seeing in Punjab, would be replicated in Europe, in UK, and America, Canada, everywhere, because their intentions remain the same. This climate crisis is a fraud which has been systematically pushed to decimate the independence of food supply. And if that independence of food supplies goes, what we're seeing everywhere in the world will come to our shores.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I advocate on TikTok, right? You know, that's what people have been saying. And unfortunately, every time I use the administration's name or bring up Pelosi, I get blocked or taken down. And so, you know, it's scary to tell people that, because that's the truth. If you read deeper into these bills and regulations and the cycle that they are putting forth, it is unhealthy. It's control about, you know, you're right about the food supply. Once they get control of that, they can do whatever they want. And family farms, unfortunately, are still the advocates for pure, wholesome product. I tell people that all the time. The government
Mm.
is introducing investor farms and factory farms. We don't do that as family farms. We want you to have from your family table to be able to provide and feed the world. So I always go back to, please save your rural communities and listen to your farmers, because it's not complaining, it's crying out for us to be able to survive so we can feed the world in the right way so the government doesn't take us over.
Yeah, yeah, Steph, we got a couple of questions coming in.
Oh.
They're asking about how would we resist this current political onslaught.
I mean, really, there's nothing. I guess maybe you understand this too. So whenever they use climate
Yeah.
change, they have some type of conservation program that they can use. So the
Mm.
farmers are really going to have to, and the whole industry, it's not just agriculture, there's so much attached to. I saw a comment about restaurants being able to feed our schools,
Mm.
stuff like that, that people don't listen to. But the biggest
Mm.
thing is to educate people about this bill, not just to read the climate change bill like they put up on the media and put up on the TV. You have to go in and read that the government is trying to take land and water rights to put into climate change. That's
Yeah.
not what it is. If you read deeper, that's why I put Nebraska out there, because Nebraska is 97% owned. It's all country, it's all
Mm.
farmland, rural communities. And so the biggest thing that you guys can do is, I know there's petitions for Colorado Pause,
Mm.
but again, just being a voice for your farmers, listening to what we need. Unfortunately, again, climate change is in there. It's a word that is
Mm.
protected, and unless we can find an underlining of unconstitutional, which I think we're going to get there in the next couple of months as they start to grab land,
Mm.
you're going to start hearing a bigger voice in the agriculture community that this is a land grab. It is not a
Yeah,
climate
yeah.
change crisis.
I think we have to completely understand. They want to completely take over private land. They want to kill off private ownership. It is the Communist Manifesto, and the first aim of Communist Manifesto remains the abolition of private property. But more to it, the question when they ask what we can do, I think there are a couple of systems which I've seen because my experience because in the farming. Especially my family in Italy, where their farm is, the way they're running their farming, and especially the farming in Punjab. What they had started doing is, first and foremost, they have started constructing their own long-term storage. So when they are storing a staple. But I know you work in uh, uh, meat. Is that majority of your farm, or is that you involved in growing crop as well?
We grow our own crops, but mostly we do milk production.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
what we I think one of the best ways which I have seen people countering this has been uh, creating the long-term storage facilities. Farmers and community groups, a village or a small town organization where multiple farmers are working together to create a long-term food storage facilities and becoming suppliers themselves and taking out and trying to set up their own supply chain, and that seems to be working to a degree. But I think it is not about, at the moment, the government is globally. It's not a problem which is limited to one part, but I think globally it seems that the government is not letting people have any sense of independence of to do any business. And what they're trying to do is, even when they have set up long-term storage facilities where they're storing food for say a couple of years, and they're trying to become distributors themselves, the government is pushing so many taxations, and so even the fuel prices are going through the roof, and it's going to have the direct impact. I think the first call for action remains that we must resist these political policies, and we must stand up against these policies, which people have to understand have a single aim, and that is, well, mass starvation.
Yeah, I know the biggest thing right now that everybody is afraid of is our inheritance tax. And,
Mm,
the government says that these millionaires, I mean, they're buying up a lot of land, but you have to take effect. Are the millionaires really going to care about a couple $100,000? No,
mm,
because they're already millionaires and investors. The farmers are the ones that are going to take the big hit on inheritance tax. And I think it's
yeah.
ridiculous. Instead of saving the family farms and helping them with that estate tax, inheritance tax, they're trying to diminish us.
Yeah, I think it's the exact same situation in Europe and in UK especially. In UK, they even want to remove the inheritance concept within the farming, so you can't even inherit your own family farm anymore. And through
Oh, wow.
the green lobbyists, they straight from so you can't pass it down your family. It will stay completely be taken over the government, and it's a similar situation in Europe. And I think, as I've seen this pattern through my work in human rights, I think the pattern remains the same globally. And I think our resistance to this fascist onslaught is to get more organized, and people need to become more aware that if the independence of food supplies goes into the hands of people like Bill Gates, who have been openly rubbing his hands and talking about, a certain number of human population needs to go down to zero and nonsense like that, I think it is a very, very dangerous proposal to have somebody like him given majority of land ownership in America, and we have a similar situation in Europe, similar situation in Asia, and I think these are very dangerous ideas which we have to resist.
Yeah, unfortunately, I say this all the time to people. Farmers have been going bankrupt a lot and just not being able to pay their bills. So this is the
Mm,
perfect time for these
mm,
activists and groups to be able to build up an army to lie about our industry, to make bills and regulations against us. And finally, we're here. And unfortunately, there's plenty of us with advocacy and loud voices, but
mm.
we're the small ones because they're, blocking our posts. They're not telling the truth behind these bills, and they're making people believe that this is really, the best way to bring America back and bring back all these other countries to be healthy. And people that are, the heart of America, the farmers, are the ones sacrificing their land and their lives to continue to fight this good fight. And I hope that, you know, it's unconstitutional and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but we're really going to have to work to get there.
Yeah, I think it's become more of a global struggle, and we'll have to all work together, especially with activists getting together. And when we see a global movement, especially as we are seeing now in the sense of global freedom rallies. These are movements which are category opposed to this idea of complete takeover, not only of our society but every single aspect of our life. So I think we have to get a little bit more involved, but I think you have to understand when your video surfaced in UK, it became one of the main viral videos, which was on not only it didn't go through the conventional social media, but there are other outlets which we can't rely on these old medias, but we have to see these new and developing medias to get our voices through. But it will get through. Resistance has always been hard, but I think struggle is part of the game. And I think we'll keep on struggling. But thank you for all the hard work you're doing. We will always support you because the struggle, either be in Punjab, either be in your struggle against the Biden administration trying to completely take over the land, take over the farming, and the idea remains in America. Let people be clear. Let people be clear on one thing. The idea is same in America, which is in Congo, as in Punjab. The Biden administration wants to starve Americans to their death. There is no other idea. They want Americans to beg for food in front of the administration, and it would be up to the administration who they want to feed and who don't they want to feed.
Mm-hmm.
People need to make no mistakes about the idea behind complete control of the food supply is a political agenda of submission and slavery. No wonder they want to kill off the American Constitution and kill off the Bill of Rights and take away the Second Amendment, because they don't want you to have a voice. Look at the situation which is happening in UK, for example. The bills about inheritance are just being discussed in America, but in UK they're already being passed through. You don't have inheritance right for farmers in UK. That will be automatically transferred to the government and corporations. So that these are land grabs. These are fundamental basic human rights being crushed. So yeah, we thank you for your activism and your voice. Your voice is very important, not only to us, but every single farmer and every single person who struggles under this fascist onslaught.
Yeah, of course. And, keep me updated. Whatever's going on, I love to post about it.
Yeah.
People, no matter how much I get blocked or taken down, I'm still going to continue to post
Yeah,
and,
yeah, no,
be
but
loud.
there are other media which will keep on promoting. Your voice has been
Hmm.
very widely and loudly heard throughout the world. So don't just be disheartened by some Facebook or Twitter or these globalist platforms quieting you down, because your voice will never be shut down. There are always other avenues. Uh, every hurdle will present a new opportunity. So we will keep on struggling, and will get you on again. I think in a couple of weeks to because we have to understand what's happening today in all over the world is going to be a reality here, and this is what the message we need to get through to these people. Even people who believe in this so-called climate crisis, they need to understand there is plenty of farms in Congo. There is plenty of food in Congo. Government policy has created an environment where people are starving to death. The same situation is in Punjab. The government is creating a policy where they are systematically destroying the crop, and their fascist agenda remains the same as the fascist agenda in America, and that is to depopulate and starve people to death. There is no, it's not a conspiracy or a hidden agenda. If you take away independent food suppliers, these people want you to beg for food, and they will decide who gets the food and who doesn't get the food. They will decide who live and who dies. So you have to understand the survival of your family in a country will depend on the government who it chooses. When they talk about technology, when they talk about the idea remains of automated farms where there will be no cattle. So the idea using would be fed into enzymes would be fed into the feed, and the enzymes will turn the feed into milk, and stem cells will be used to grow beef and chicken. These ideas which they are proposing, they might sound a solution, but uh, don't take these ideas for what they are representing, because the reality remains they want to completely take over the food supply. And these dreams that they're selling about automated farms where there be endless supply of food are complete nonsense. All the ideas till today we have seen from mega corporations have been a complete lie and have done great damage to humanity. And if this last resort, which has kept us ticking till today, of independent food supply goes into their hand, we will see exact same situation which we have seen throughout all ages. So thank you for joining us today. And we will, I think, in a couple of weeks when there's new and more information, especially on your bills which are going through the American system, and the protests going in UK and Europe about the similar situation. And we do call on all the farmers in Europe, in UK, in Canada, in America to mobilize. This is the best time to mobilize and get politically active, because if you let the situation get even worse, you will not have this opportunity to get mobilized and get your voice heard. So this is the time to get politically organized and ask the government for your rights, because otherwise they're willing to snatch your livelihood, and not only your livelihood, but your source to feed your family as well. Hello, would you like to add anything? That's it, and we will try to get another next show so we can get more, especially details as they come through from all over the world through the Khalistan Food Aid, which we're doing in Congo, and I think a couple of other parts of Africa and Asia as well. And when the more information became that becomes open, we will bring it to the world. I think we have to understand the pattern of politics around the food supply remains the same. They disrupt the food supply, they destroy the harvest, and the third thing is mass starvation. We have to understand this completely. There is only one political agenda behind taking over the food supply, and that is depopulation and mass starvation. Thank you very much.